That was one of the hardest things to learn to manage and control. Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Fun fact, I didn't graduate college, which means I'm not a doctor. Everything that I'm about to say is my opinions and how it affects me. If you're experiencing symptoms or need to talk to somebody, please talk to somebody. Go talk to a doctor, talk to friends or family. Today we are going to talk about borderline personality disorder. What it is, what symptoms come with it, and how it affects me. I got diagnosed in 2017, which is a long story in itself, much too long for one video. Quick little history of what borderline personality disorder is. Way back in 1938, back when the idea of mental health was still young, there was only two real diagnoses, neurosis and psychosis. Then they started to notice a group of people that showed symptoms of both, but not enough to be either. So that's where they came up with the term borderline, because you're on the borderline of neurosis and psychosis. Obviously, in the last 80 years, the science of it has gotten a lot better, so it's way more defined. The DSM-5, which is the book of all mental health disorders, says that if you display 5 of the 9 following symptoms, that you have a possible diagnosis of borderline personality disorder. So now we're going to go through the symptoms one by one, and we'll talk about my experiences with the symptoms. And I'm literally reading these from their website. Frantic efforts to avoid real or imagined abandonment, which I have a lot of. I often ask my friends if they're mad at me and what I did wrong, even if I know that I didn't do anything or that something wasn't my fault. All because I'm afraid that they're not going to want to be my friend anymore. I don't even talk to a lot of my family members because I don't think they want to talk to me. And this really goes into number 2. A pattern of unstable and intense interpersonal relationships, characterized by altering between extremes of idealization and devaluation. This, for me, is incredibly hard to deal with, especially in romantic relationships, where I'll go on a first date and then spend the entire weekend there. Just 0 to 100, instant relationship. Then when something happens, they're no more to me than a person walking down the street. And all that can happen in a week. I've worked on this a lot though, and with my meds, I'm actually pretty leveled out on this aspect. Number 3, doesn't really apply to me much, but it's listed as identity disturbance, markedly and persistently unstable self-image or sense of self. Luckily, I don't really have to deal with that one. Number 4, impulsivity in at least 2 areas that are potentially self-damaging. The examples are spending, which unfortunately I do all the time. I buy things to make me happy. Just in the moment, never long term. The second one is substance abuse, which I've also had issues with. I used to be a very heavy drinker. I can't remember the last time I went a day without being high. Reckless driving. My friends tell me I'm one of the best drivers they know. And that's because I'll easily hit 100 miles per hour on a Tuesday lane splitting during 5 o'clock traffic when I'm alone. So my reflexes have gotten better under normal circumstances. The last example they give is binge eating, which I've also done. It was a big factor in my weight gain, along with the fact that one of my medications has a side effect of increased appetite. So between the two, I was eating uncontrollably, which is why I blew the fuck up and gained 70 pounds. But since I've actually lost 30 and I'm down to 215. Number 5 is a rough one. Recurrent suicidal behavior, gestures, or threats, or self-mutilating behavior. And I used to have a really big problem with that last one. Bad enough to that's actually how, when I attempted suicide, that's how I did it. I attempted to bleed out. But let's keep this shit light and fluffy. I'm not dead. Unlike the RIP Fan Jerry merch, which is linked in the description below. Quick little story with this one. So I used to be in a support group for my self-mutilating behavior, and it was mostly a group of alcoholics. I was the only person there that would religiously slice their thigh open, but every class we had to introduce ourselves. So my introduction always went a little like this. Hi, my name's Jerry. I cut myself like a 16-year-old girl that's crying for attention. Sometimes it got laughs, sometimes it didn't. Number 6 is the big difference between borderline personality disorder and bipolar disorder. Affective instability due to a marked reactivity of mood, or intense episodic dysphoria, irritability, or anxiety, usually lasting a few hours and only rarely more than a few days. So with a bipolar manic episode, from my knowledge, once again, I'm not a doctor, can last from days to weeks, where my mood swings would change so frequently, I would be the life of the party downstairs, and 15 minutes later, someone would find me naked, crying, and cutting myself in my closet. So it was just 0 to 100 real quick, all of the time. That was one of the hardest things to learn to manage and control. But for the most part now, along with my meds, I'm pretty stable. Number 7, chronic feelings of emptiness or feeling worthless, which is something that's really easy for me to do. I get sucked into my own thoughts all the time still. And this is one of the ones that still gets me, where I just feel worthless. But with my meds and my help, it's significantly better than it used to be. Number 8 goes as follows. Inappropriate, intense anger or difficulty controlling anger. But I'm not a fighter, so I used to just bottle it up and seek revenge. Like that one time that I found out my ex-wife was cheating on me, so I instantly banged her best friend. Perfect example. Finally, number 9, transient stress-related paranoia, ideation, or severe dissociative symptoms. Now, this isn't full-on dissociative identity disorder or multiple personality disorder as people think it is, but it's more along the lines of thinking that you're other people in situations instead of actually being that person. Like, I call it putting on my face when I'm out doing a Danny shoot, because the charisma, strength, and courage that it takes to do those shoots and not be riddled with anxiety is rough. So I put on my face. So during that time, I'm Fan Jerry. I'm not me. So that's an example where I don't wake up as Bob one day and Shirley the next, which would be more along the lines of DID. So here's what I'm doing to manage. I've been to a lot of therapy classes, cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, and even a 3-month outpatient program that I did where I would show up to classes every day, all day for 3 months. And I'm also prescribed some medications. I take 225 milligrams of Affective every day. And I also take 30 grams of Remeron, is what it's called. The Remeron also helps me sleep. I take that one at nighttime. It's a heavy sedative, so it just knocks me out. Anyways, this is just a little bit about BPD and how it affects me. I hope you guys found it at least a little bit interesting. And please, guys, if you think you need help, reach out to a family member or a friend or anybody. Since you watched this to the end, you might as well follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Links in the description. If you want to support me by buying my merch on Patreon, those links will be there as well. I'm losing 2 weeks' pay at the end of the month, so I'd really appreciate it. Anyways, guys, thank you.